Joining us now, Jonathan Lemire, staff writer for The Atlantic and co-host of Morning Joe. Jonathan Capehart is co-host of MS Now's The Weekend. Amy Parnes, senior political correspondent for The Hill and co-author of Shattered, Inside Hillary Clinton's Doomed Campaign. John Lemire, Clinton made clear in her opening statement she has no knowledge that would assist in the investigation. So if the Oversight Committee's actual goal is to get justice for survivors, have they addressed how Hillary Clinton gets them there?
No, they have not. And having her there, and we know her husband, the former president, did have some connections with Jeffrey Epstein. That's been well documented. But having her there almost betrays what this has really been about for certainly the Republicans on the Hill, and the argument can be made for Donald Trump's Department of Justice. And that is making this a political exercise. You know, it is hard for the DOJ to suggest they are an unbiased seeker of truth and justice when they have a giant poster on DOJ headquarters in Washington, D.C., a giant banner with President Trump's picture on it. That's true. It hangs there to this day. And we have seen this administration give guidance, some spoken, some unspoken, to DOJ to make this political, to try to protect President Trump. And certainly there's been explosive reporting in the last day or so about these pages upon pages of documents, interviews with an accuser of President Trump. That's all missing from the files released. And we don't know that there's any merit to the accusations, but certainly the fact that these documents were withheld raises real questions about the integrity of this investigation. And I will say there are some in Trump's orbit, Chris, who are a little leery of having the Clintons do these depositions. And what we saw today about the photo being released certainly gives credence to the Clintons wanting to make this public, since already images are being sent to the media by a Republican congresswoman, apparently. But also that if these Clintons can be called there, well, so could perhaps President Trump, perhaps after November, if Democrats get control of the House.
So Jonathan Capehart, he raises a provocative possibility. I mean, if you take a look at the headlines recently, and I think we can show you some of them, the fallout from the Epstein files has resulted in both arrests and resignations, so no charges of sex crimes. Could there be an opening for something more to happen with potentially even more powerful people?
Well, sure. Just given who we know, whose names have appeared in the files, chief among them the president, but also, like, we're very super hyper focused on the people here who are Americans who are named in the files. But we have seen overseas people mentioned in the files who have been held accountable, from Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, former Prince Andrew, to the former U.S. ambassador, Mr. Ambassador Mendelson, I think his last name is. Yep. They've been arrested. Action happening in Norway with the former prime minister. Gordon Brown, the former British prime minister, who said, hey, authorities, I have documents, I have evidence to hand over, which opens up other avenues that it looks like the Justice Department has been trying to close off to the Oversight Committee and to others who are trying to hold people accountable. If Prime Minister Brown and the Norwegians and other folks who are not in the United States also then hand over documents, I'm not sure that the Americans who are being shielded at the moment can depend on that shield being permanent.
What do you think, Amy? And I go back to the idea that these survivors have shown a tenacity. They have shown a sophistication. They have kept this story in the news, including going, some of them, to the State of the Union, right? Taking every opportunity when they're asked to come and say why they think this investigation needs to continue on all levels. They've built relationships with members of Congress. What might that mean going forward?
I mean, it has lasting staying power, and that's why I've been hearing from Republicans for months that they want this issue out there. I mean, let's not forget what happened with Speaker Johnson. He dismissed the House over the summer. Yeah, now he had to, he had to bring it back, and because he saw that his folks wanted this thing out there. But it is true that these survivors, these victims, they are pushing this case forward and keeping it in the headlines. And the fact of the matter is, Republicans are on board. They realize, a lot of them realize how important this is. I just don't know what Hillary Clinton will add to this conversation, really. I mean, I think it's almost, it's going to, I think, make maybe throw this in the other direction for them. And I think the backlash, why not have Melania Trump out there if Hillary Clinton is testifying and she has nothing to do with Epstein himself? I think the point is kind of moot. I don't know how much this adds to the transparency here. Yeah,
Jonathan, last hour, Democratic Congressman Suhas Subramanian gave us a firsthand account of what's happening inside. Let me play part of what he said.
I think Secretary Clinton is puzzled as to why she's here and answering questions. I think she's held her own, though. Frankly, we're about to go question her, and I'm trying to figure out what else to ask her, because she's very clearly doesn't know much about Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell.
I mean, when you read her statement, Jonathan Capehart, and you've interviewed both of the Clintons, she was tough. She was focused. She talked, I thought, very interestingly about, I say she schooled members of the committee. She said, listen, I've known about sexual trafficking. I've worked in the area of sexual trafficking, sexual abuse for decades now. Let me tell you the things that I've done. Does everything you've heard coming out of there, and even this, strange picture that's been released, we don't exactly know why, but match what you would expect from Hillary Clinton?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, anyone who remember the Benghazi hearings when she sat for 11 straight hours and parried with these folks who were clearly not up to the task.
Going in and out of the room while she sat there.
Right. There we go, right there on the screen. And so this cast of characters in the majority who think that they're going to get the better of her. In what you just read in terms of her experience on the issue of sex trafficking, do they not understand that she came in prepared? Like, I'm going to play your game, and you know what? I'm going to get on the record, since the transcripts are going to be released, the video is going to be released. Folks are going to hear what I have to say in terms of my experience, because there is no experience with Epstein, but I'm also, through these transcripts and videos and my testimony here, I'm going to show the American people what a farce this is, how ludicrous you guys sound and look, and also hold a mirror up to you to begin to get the American people to ask the question, well, wait, why isn't the committee talking to the president? Why isn't the committee talking to Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick? Why isn't the committee talking to the First Lady? If the former First Lady is apparently relevant, meaning Hillary Clinton, to this conversation, and there's no evidence, no pictures, then why aren't we talking to the current First Lady, where there are numerous pictures of her with that one right there that's on the screen right now.
Yeah. So, Jonathan Lemire, are you hearing anything about pressure on lawmakers to turn this months-long investigation into actually something tangible?
I mean, I think that there are some voices who have been pressuring them all along. We know Congressman Massey and Khanna formed a bit of a bipartisan team here to push this, with some support from others. But I think that Chairman Comer has, to this point, largely run interference on behalf of the Trump administration. Though we should note, before he went in there today, he did speak to the press and did not rule out calling Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick for an eventual deposition. Lutnick is in the files repeatedly and clearly misrepresented when he says he severed connections to Epstein. Turns out he was in touch with the disgraced financier much later than he originally admitted. But we'll see. It is very rare indeed when the Republicans on the Hill defy President Trump. And it's true, the initial bill that became law to release these files, Trump initially opposed it and then got rolled. He did, and he had to go along with it. But we've seen how DOJ has played this out. They have slow rolled it. They have released in piecemeal these documents, and they have suggested that there will be many, many million perhaps that will never see the light of day. So I think there's still a fervent hope in the West Wing that eventually this will go away. But let's be clear.
No.
Every time they've hoped that so far, that has not happened. The political clouds have only darkened.
Amy, I'm being told to wrap, and I should, but let me ask you really quickly. Would you expect Bill Clinton to be as disciplined as Hillary seems to be being?
Yeah, I mean, they came prepared. These people are professionals. They know. They've been in the spotlight before. They know what's expected.
Depends on what the meaning of the word is.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see.
Going way back.
For people out there going, she's old. Amy Parnes, Jonathan Lemire, thank you. John Capehart, you're going to stay with us.